Hey everyone, welcome to the bi-weekly live stream. We're going to try to do these a little more regular than we've done in the past. So definitely keep an eye out on all of our socials, YouTube and Facebook, to know when those are happening. While you're here, we're going to give a few minutes for people to kind of filter into the broadcast. So do me a favor, and whatever platform you're on, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, if you comment where you're watching from, that way we can know where you're watching from, and we'll see it on our stream on our back end here. So don't worry if you're watching on Facebook, on the Facebook group, or on YouTube. Any one of those is an opportunity to let us know where you guys are watching from. Idaho. Did you guys get snow yet up there in Idaho? I know we had some friends up in Alberta, Canada, and Montana. They got some good snow. And Christy, while you're in here, would you let us know what kind of DTF printer you're printing on right now? Be super helpful. We are going to cover color today. It's a pretty complex topic, and we're going to do our best to answer your guys' questions. We will cover some general things here as we get into the video a little bit, as more people filter into the broadcast. But I also want to answer you guys' questions. So make sure you guys put your questions in the chat. The rest of the video team will kind of pin those and throw them up on screen so I can answer them. So definitely ask your questions in the comments and wherever you're at. I see Kevin from Wisconsin. Hey, Kevin. Let's see. A Blue Hawk. So i3200. Yeah, we got a lot of folks with i3200. That's pretty standard for most DTF printers. The Blue Hawk's a model I'm not familiar with, but yeah. So we'll give a couple more minutes, couple more minutes for people to trickle in. Kevin's got the Mongoose. Is that the Mongoose 1 or the 2? Have you had it for over a year, Kevin? That's a great machine. Our Mongoose was really a great machine for us. Obviously, a lot of our stuff is now heavy on the Mamaki because that's the new thing that we've got. But the Mongoose is a great machine. As you can see, we've got some nicely printed stuff all around me. We'll talk about how we kind of get really bold, vibrant colors. Everything we have printed here today was printed on the Mamaki. That's just kind of our go-to printer at this point. Almost a year. Perfect. Awesome. If anybody else is joining the live stream, in the comments, just let us know where you're watching from, and let us know what kind of printer you've got. Also, feel free to ask your color questions that you have right now, as we'll start answering them a little later on, but don't hesitate to just drop those questions in the comments below. We'll give it another probably minute and a half to 2 minutes. We're super excited to be doing more of these live streams so we can answer your guys' questions. So if you have a topic you want us to cover on a live stream, let us know. We're going to kind of cover a lot of general things, but as well as some very specific things. Like our next broadcast, we're going to be covering specifically the i3200 printhead and some maintenance items with that. Hey, it looks like we got somebody from Lithuania in Europe. What time is it there right now? Because we're at 11 o'clock Arizona time, which is 1 o'clock East Coast in America time. We got somebody watching in Maryland. Hey, Penny. And our friend over in Lithuania. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name because I don't want to mess that up. But thanks for checking in and watching this live stream with us. What kind of printer are you running in Lithuania, or are you running a DTF printer? 8 p.m. This might be a great time. I'm prime time in Europe right now, right? Is that what's going on? Awesome. So yeah, so next week or in 2 weeks, so keep an eye on everything we'll post when we're doing it. But in 2 weeks, we're going to cover i3200 printheads. We're going to talk about kind of how they work, some of the quirks with them, why you tend to have clogging issues sometimes with them. Also, some maintenance things, like we're going to show you how to flush an i3200 printhead in the safest manner possible without messing it up. So I will share the color charts, and I'll explain what you want to use them for a little later on, Derek. So good question. I will share this one. Yeah, and then we also these other prints we have out here are from some tests we did to show some different color profiling options you have and whether or not they make any kind of a difference. So, all right, we're 5 minutes in, so let's get going. We got about 16 people on the stream, so hey everyone. Like I said before, if you have questions, drop them in the comment area below so that we can answer them as we go along. All right, so color is a super like complex thing. And a lot of the reason we have some issues or some like disparity between maybe what somebody designed or they're looking at on their phone and what prints and why those are kind of different. That's because your phone, what you're watching me on right now is a an RGB color space basically, and it's an additive color. What that means is that as you add red, green, and blue together, you get white. With CMYK, it's a subtractive method. You add cyan, magenta, yellow together, and they make black or sort of black. That's why printers have cyan, magenta, yellow, and a black color, because those three don't exactly totally equal black. But that's why sometimes there's a discrepancy between what you're seeing on a computer screen or your phone and what prints. And this is an issue for digital printing, period. It's not just a DTF situation. It's literally any printer has a certain limit on what kind of colors it can produce. This here is the physical light color gamut. So that whole like blob there that you're seeing is like every color that we can see. And then the shapes in there are the different kind of limitations of the different profiles. Now, this is one of the reasons why you will see like a sunset or maybe some flowers out in wild, like with your eyes, and they just look amazing. And then when you take a picture of it or you try to send it to someone, it just kind of feels a little lackluster. And that's because those triangles you guys see there are the white triangles. The little one is the sRGB, which was a pretty much a monitor or light based standard for a long time. But then in '98, Adobe widened their color gamut on computer monitors, and that's pretty much what's standard now is that wider triangle, the Adobe RGB. But if you guys look at that color polygon, if we can get that back up on screen. There we go. So that black polygon, that is the CMYK color gamut. So you'll notice that it is quite a bit smaller than the visible and a decent amount smaller than the RGB. And that's why we tend to have more issues with printing blues accurately, is because the blue is kind of the farthest away from the CMYK color gamut. So I did see a few questions pop up on the live stream. Are there some that we need to answer? Or running oddly 4 Epson printhead, perfect, awesome. Those oddlies are great machines. So yeah, and then concerning setting up color without a spectrophotometer, please provide us with some deal with that. So I actually have on the desk here, I've got the NIX color scanner that we um, that we sell the profiling add-on for. We don't actually sell this NIX color scanner. You just buy it from Amazon. But this is what we use for all of our profiling. So all of these prints that you see around me were profiled with the NIX color profiler. Our friend over at Merch Studio, Gerald, if you guys haven't ever seen Gerald with Merch Studio, he just posted a video the other day about using one of these, like the big scanners, where it prints out 2,300 swatches to do a full ICC profile. He's trying to match two different machines to each other, so he's definitely doing something a little more complex. But this is definitely the NIX. The NIX color scanner is a great option, and it's allowed us to get some really very accurate colors. So, all right. So then we've got, let's see, the difference between getting accurate colors if someone sends you a design that was created for screen printing. So all the colors are screen printing colors, and we can't achieve this. So here's what's going on with that. Screen printers use the Pantone matching system, which with CMYK you can produce about 70% of the Pantone colors, but 30% you can't. And a lot of that is because Pantone matching system used 13 base pigments plus black, so 14 actual pigments. With CMYK, we're literally using 3 colors plus black. So that's why screen printers can produce exact Pantone matches. There are some things you can do in some of the color settings on like either the RIP software or sometimes in the printer settings to kind of get some stuff that's a little outside that gamut. But what ends up happening is that you get a lot of graininess because the way those colors are mixed with Pantone color matching with screen printers is not the same way those colors mix. When a printer prints a specific pixel that's supposed to be a teal color, something like that, so it's got some cyan and some magenta in it, it's dropping little drops of those particular pigments onto the page, onto that one little pixel. And then it just mixes at that point. So sometimes that graininess comes from just the way the pigments are mixing with each other. But yeah, so when someone comes to you with a specific Pantone match or something like that, really you're going to run into this mostly if you're doing any work with like colleges or large corporations that have like a specific Pantone color. Just know you might run into some issues, and that's every digital printing method. So sublimation has that issue. DTG has that issue where there's certain colors that it's going to struggle to produce. And they tend to mostly be in the blue spectrum. One of the things that some large format printers have done, think of some like Mamaki sublimation, Epson like banner printers and stuff like that, they add additional color cartridges to their system to allow for wider color gamut. And at this point, there is not a DTF printer that has widened the color gamut by adding like a light cyan or a violet or something like that. So I think that maybe that's something we might see down the road in the future, but right now we are limited to that CMYK. Now, that being said, if you have your printer profiled using the NICS, and we've got it pretty accurate with even just the NICS, not doing the full not doing the full ICC profile, we've gotten really accurate colors to the point where we can scan a color with the NICS profiler, find out what that is, like a physical thing, and then try to match that as closely as we can. But yeah, it is one of the pain points for sure, especially when folks came out of screen printing and they had the ability to do exact Pantone matches. Is there a way you can change your design to look on the screen exactly how it looks printed, or change screen res to make sure it matches what comes out of the printer? So it depends on your monitor. Like that's one of the things that is, as you have customers, might have a customer that designed their graphic on their computer at home with their $99 cheapo monitor they bought. And so the colors aren't exactly right. If you're in a situation like that where somebody's got their colors are kind of off from what they saw, that's one of the reasons having a swatch shirt like this is really helpful, because you can have the customer point out exactly what the color is that they want. So if they have a red color they want, they can go in here and pick exactly which color red that they want, and then you can replace it with that color. So if your screen is calibrated using like a calibration software and tool, and your printer's calibrated, then it should match pretty closely to each other from screen to printer. But you're going to get customer files, and that's why it's important to use like the hex code. So you can use the like the RGB numbers and just use that. That's one of the things with this that it will allow you to do is scan and get that exact code. There isn't a place right now, but if you shoot me an email, I will send you that swatch file. I'll also probably make it available on our website for download. It's just not up there just yet. So, and another question that I get a lot from folks is I'm going to pull up Photoshop here real quick. We get a lot of folks asking, should I be editing? I will answer that. Let me answer this question first. How to use the Nix scanner? So I'm not sure about FlexiSign, about that software. For us, we use CADLink Digital Factory as our RIP software. That's our kind of our standard in-house RIP software. And there is a specific add-on for creating print modes with the Nix color scanner and color profile, and it does do a baseline ICC profile. It's not the official 2000 swatch one. You can get that, but it's like $500 for the scanner and the add-on for CADLink. You might reach out to FlexiSign to see if they have an add-on or something to pair up with the Nix color scanner. That's what I would suggest. And there's a video on our YouTube on how to use that scanner to build a print mode, but it is specific to CADLink. All right, so let's hop back over to Photoshop. And one of the things people ask me all the time, as if you look at, let's go full screen on Photoshop. And you've got your settings here, so your height, your width, your resolution, color mode. People ask me all the time, should I be doing CMYK for the color mode? And my answer has always been no. And it's mostly come from a standpoint of you don't want to do a conversion back and forth. So basically, if you were to create this file as CMYK color, and then you export it as a PNG or a PDF, which both of those default to an RGB color profile. So it's basically going CMYK, RGB, and then back to CMYK for the printer. And also it gives you some weird kind of muted colors on your screen. And I'll actually show you guys that here in just a second. But I always recommend going with RGB color as your color mode in Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever you're using. And then the color profile, if you look, there is a ton of color profiles here for different things, options. A lot of times your computer's probably going to default to a working RGB or don't color manage. Either one of those should be fine. I tend to go with the don't color manage. And I want to show you guys, I'm going to pull up a picture here that I created, or that it's what I printed over here. And I'm going to show you guys what happens when we go from the RGB to the CMYK mode in Photoshop. So give me 1 second. And if you guys have more questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and the video team that's back in the booth will try to remind me to double check those. Let's see. Apologies, I had it right here. So I do see that question from our guy in Europe. Give me 1 second. I tried not to do this from the last live stream. The team's like, hey, have the stuff ready. And I thought I did, and I didn't today. So my apologies. Here we go. All right, color gamut. Open it up right there. Here we go. So if we go back to full screen on that, this is RGB mode. If I switch it to CMYK, you're going to notice it kind of mutes things a little bit. See if it'll let me go. So it does a slight muting of the colors a little bit. When we tried to print a couple things out, we couldn't actually tell much of a difference when it was actually printed, but on screen it mutes things a little bit. Like the purples were a little more lavender looking, And so, and I wondered if that would be like a more accurate representation of the colors that would print, but it wasn't. It looked just muted. It was harder to tell what I was editing. So definitely, these were the two graphics we printed. This one was the RGB mode. This one was CMYK mode. And when I exported it and printed it, they look nearly identical. And there's no point in zooming in because you really can't tell. Right here in kind of the magenta or the purplish area, it was a little bit deeper, but not super noticeable. So I would just stick with RGB color mode. All right, what was that question from our friend over in Europe? Mentioned blue color's tricky for DTF printers. We're probably blue only, basically. So the funny thing is, blue in the CMYK printing setup is not just cyan. So when you try to do a blue color, it's usually a combination of your cyan and your magenta. So if I go in here to Photoshop and bring that over here. So if I try to do a color that is 100% blue, so 255, so that's blue. If you notice, so there's the RGB, 100% blue. That's 88% cyan, 77% magenta. So it really depends on what the color blue is that you're trying to reproduce. Some people will have issues with banding specifically on blues, and that's again just because as the system's struggling a little bit to produce that specific color you're asking for, it can cause some hiccups. So my suggestion is try some different blues. Try some slightly different variations of it to see if they print out a little bit better. And if we can go tight on this thing, I want to show you guys an example. This peacock was a super, super deep blue. And it's funny because just this week I was trying to work with someone on trying to get their blues to be deeper. They weren't happy with the blue that they were getting. And I actually have that shirt here that we tested with. And the blue in this graphic, I'll go super, super tight on this one. So the blue in this graphic had a lot of like graininess, and it kind of was a little bit lackluster. So if we go back to the peacock, the blues on that peacock they're just insanely deep. They're vibrant. They look absolutely fantastic. So it's sometimes not every blue, sometimes it's just the specific blue that you're trying to print. Printing color swatches helps. These ones got printed a little bit on the small side. If I were printing this for like my customers to choose, I would probably double the size of those swatches just so that you can see them printed out a little bit fuller. But yeah, so if you have more questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. Video team, have I missed any questions that have come up since I've been yammering on? Beautiful. Yeah, so the other thing in Photoshop, it will tell you when stuff's outside of certain color gamuts. If you try to pick a color, and let's just do this real quick. Let's go color picker. So you saw that little kind of exclamation marks pop up over there. These show you what are web safe colors and also RGB gamut colors, because we are in, oh wait, are we in CMYK? No, we're in RGB. That's what I thought. So what it will tell you is if you're inside or outside of that gamut. So, and then when you click on it, Photoshop will jump you over to something that's in that gamut. You know, and I've never actually tried this before. Let's just throw it up in CMYK and see what it does. Rasterize. Okay. I'll pull this up. Yeah, it's not optimized. A lot of things aren't optimized necessarily for CMYK, just because RGB is kind of that default design mode, that default. And for Photoshop, it just that's its default mode is RGB. So Some blues are banding really bad. Will it make any difference if the blue in the file is switched from CMYK to RGB source per se? No, because when you export that file as a PNG or a TIFF, or I'm pretty sure TIFF is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but I'm pretty sure TIFF is also RGB profile. So most things are RGB profile. So the minute it spits out into a PNG or PDF for you to use in your RIP software, it's going to basically convert those colors to RGB. The biggest thing I would say is try, if there's a specific blue you're trying to get and it's not working to use like a color swatch shirt, I would just make a bunch of boxes of blue on a file, pick a bunch of different slightly varying colors around that blue color you're trying to get, and then print them off and see what they look like, because you'll see they'll behave a little differently from each other. How do colors compare from the Oddly to the Mamaki? That is a great question. Hold on one second. So, what's that? Oh, thanks, Phil. Phil was pointing out that my shirt was printed on an i3200. It was printed on our Mamaki in-house. But one of the biggest comments and feedback we're getting from folks that have purchased the Mamaki is the colors are a lot deeper, a lot stronger and bolder. We're getting less graininess in a lot of stuff. So that's the feedback we're getting. That's one of the reasons you've seen a lot of our attention shift toward the Mamakis, is because just they're being super reliable and the colors that are coming out are amazing, like mind-blowing. But the biggest thing you guys can do if you have an i3200 based printer is find really good inks. Like, you can go find some cheap ink and you're going to get cheap results. But if you can get an ink that is a deeper kind of color and then you can color profile it off of that ink, you might be able to get yourself better results. But yeah, overall, the Mamaki is kind of blowing the i3200s out of the water when it comes to color. Colors that we just couldn't ever get to print right on the i3200s, we're getting to print pretty well on the Mamaki. It's not to say it's perfect. Like I said, that one that I showed you where the blue was kind of grainy, that was on a Mamaki. But again, I think that's just trying to print a color that's so far out of the gamut, it just can't do it well. So basically, you cannot produce the blues no matter what you do, and you have to find the right blues to be using correct. There are certain blues you're just not going to be able to produce. That is correct. That being said, you guys are going to be able to get real close. If you profile your machine properly, you're going to be able to get really, really close. Like I said, 70% of the Pantone colors you can do with CMYK. There's just 30% that is going to be really difficult. And sometimes close enough is good enough. Sometimes it's not. It just depends on your workflow. And like I said, I've said it before in other trainings and stuff like that. That's where screen printing does beat the digital printing methods, is in the ability to do exact color matches. And that's the difference between digital printing and a physical printing method. So yeah, so there's another representation of the difference in the color gamut. And again, we're talking about 4 colors: cyan, yellow, magenta, and black, versus 14 colors with screen printers. So the fact that we can do 70% with a third of the number of pigments. So Penny, you're getting a Mamaki next week. That's exciting. Which one are you getting? Are you getting the 150 or the 300? Super, super exciting. But yeah, our friend over in Europe, you can still get good blues. We've gotten great blues. It's just certain ones just are gonna be a little troublesome. So the 150, awesome. You know, that machine, it got a lot of flack when it first launched because it was kind of slow, but we've had nothing but rave reviews about it. People love its reliability, the ability to just walk up to it and print. It's super fantastic. So Yeah, so if there's not, I'm gonna kind of start to wrap things up. If you do have a question and you haven't gotten it in yet, feel free to get it in. But yeah, next week we're going to cover the i3200 printhead and some maintenance type things. There are some things you can do to help um, mitigate some of the maintenance issues you've maybe had with your i3200 printers. When it comes to color and your i3200 printer, try some better inks and profile. If you just stick some better ink or some different ink in your machine and you don't profile it, it's not going to look right. Because those machines are kind of like open source and they just kind of put some default profiles in it. It's really important that you do some kind of profiling to your machine, especially when you change out um, ink colors. So definitely try some better stuff. We've got a new brand of ink here at DTF Superstore called Color Edge that is like, if you just look at the bottle, the pigments are really deep. We're hoping to do some testing on that here relatively soon because we know a lot of folks are making really great money printing with i3200 printhead machines because I mean, people get them to work really great. We had our boot camp a couple weeks ago, and we had somebody come from Calgary, Alberta, and they were running their Oddly forehead for like a year and a half, 2 years, and just had very, very little problems with it. So from my experience, I don't tend to get great color reproduction in RGB mode when printed. So I've been creating in CMYK and tend to get more accurate color representation of what it shows on screen. What's the reason behind that? So I will be the first to tell you, if you have something that works, go with it. Stick with what works for you. If you are getting better results that way, the reason I say edit in RGB is just because the back and forth conversion that's happening. But there are so many weird settings and different settings in Photoshop. You could be having some other settings ticked that I don't. I try to keep my Photoshop as default as possible because I want to be able to show you guys what, when you first load up Photoshop, what it's likely producing and looking like. So we don't have a specific paid support program for people that are not DTF Superstore customers. Um, you do have my email, which I recognize can get a little dangerous. Oh, so we put it up again. There we go. There's my email. There's a certain amount of support that we will give, help that we will give you to try to help you troubleshoot, because we know that some of the dilemmas or issues you might be having, other people are probably having. And so if we can create some content to help the industry, and we definitely as a company believe that if the industry grows and the industry gets better, as a company, DTF Superstore, we're gonna grow and get better. So we really kind of see the industry as kind of just our partner. So whatever we can do to help people in the industry produce better quality DTF graphics, it's gonna be better for all of us, because the more the public knows about DTF, I mean, it's already kind of like it's starting to snowball for sure. But the more the public that knows about this technology, the more people are going to be asking for it, and the more companies are going to be printing with it, and the more ink and film we're going to get to sell. And so, yeah, we just very much are from that train of thought. So definitely reach out to me if you have some questions. I'll do what I can to help you out, and maybe we'll have some discussions about some kind of paid support for non-DTF Superstore folks. So I went to the Mamaki location, test printed the TXF 150 with CADLink drivers. They have it was super grainy. I'm guessing you guys have different profile. It's by far the most stable printer. Yes. So the default profiles on CADLink are not great. And if you talk to CADLink, they'll say, yeah, no, they're not. They're just baseline profiles. They expect you to create your own print modes. So we have created our own print mode. As far as we know, using that print mode on other printers should work fine. So if you have a TXF 150 or 300, we do have some print profiles we're happy to share with you. You can drop me an email. Don't put my email up there again. I'm just kidding. Um, what would be the best color profile on an Oddly? So that's kind of complicated because there are default print modes and profiles that come with different RIP softwares. So CADLink's got some, but ultimately what's best is you profile your machine with the film, the ink, the printer, like all that whole combination. Because definitely with the i3200 machines, I don't know if it's the Host and Soft board that they all use or something else, but they don't tend to be consistent from one machine to another. Whereas I could create a print profile, but on my machine, and even if you have the same setup, it might look different on your machine. So that's why we really try to pound in getting yourself a Nix scanner and getting the profiling add-on to CADLink. That's really the only way you're going to be able to get your printer printing accurate colors. So that's my answer for the oddly. You got to make your own print profile. So I would, like I said, I wish there's my wife in the comments. The whole team says hi. I wish there was an easier way to be able to share print profiles and print modes with you guys. With the Mamaki being a little more streamlined or a little more consistent in that they're providing the ink for it, there's less room for kind of some issues. So Shay is using MainTop and Host and Soft board. Yeah. So MainTop is that RIP software. Which version of MainTop? Because there were some pretty limiting things with older versions of MainTop. But as long as it's working for you, great. I don't know if MainTop has any kind of like ability to create your own ICC color profiles. But version 6.1, yeah. So I would reach out to MainTop to see if they have some way for you to create your own color profiles. If they don't, I would suggest maybe giving CADLink a try. I know the reason we carry it and the reason why it's our default one, like Mamaki has their own RIP software. It's called Rasterlink, and it's good. It's designed by Mamaki for the Mamaki printer, but it doesn't do variable white underbase as well. It just does basically just a single layer of white behind it. And the layout functions are a little cumbersome. With CADLink, you can get really great white underbase, and you can arrange and nest all your stuff with like one click, and it's amazing. And I'll actually show you. Let's go super close cam on this one. So this is the white layer on with CADLink. See how where it's black, the white isn't, and I'm going to try to make that opaque. Give me 1 second. If you see the white layer, it's not all even. And that's that variable white underbase. And so what it's doing is it's printing less white under black colors because it doesn't need it. So that's why we love CADLink. It makes your life super, super simple. And I know we've done videos on how to build gang sheets and stuff like that. Ultimately, if you have CADLink, build your gang sheets in CADLink because it's so, so easy. We have a video on that on our YouTube as well. I think CADLink is far better than MainTop because it supports and saves white ink coverage on the black print. Yeah, it really is. I try not to, just because of who I am and just my personality, I try not to disparage other things that people are using if they're working for them, because sometimes you just work with what works. Like I use Photoshop, I use Illustrator, but I know some folks are out there creating some amazing stuff with Corel Draw. So it may not be beneficial for you to switch to Photoshop because you have to learn all that new stuff. Same thing there. If the RIP software you're using is doing everything you want it to do and doing it well, stick with it. But if you want to know what we think is the best one, it's definitely CADLink for sure. What percentage was that? It's nice. So that is, I believe, the percentage he's asking about is the percentage of white under black and white under base. So I believe my main white under base was 70% on the Mamaki, and then the white under black was, I think, 30 or 40%. And so then what it does, it just varies that percentage down from the white to the black. And then this one also, CADLink Digital Factory 11 actually has highlight white. So if it's just white as its own color, you can boost the levels on that one. So CADLink running 2 commercial program printers, or do I have to purchase another CADLink program? So what we're talking about, so if you have CADLink 10, there is an upgrade to Digital Factory 11. That is a cost. If you're talking about this color profiling add-on, I believe you just need to do it for one machine. You might have to switch machines when you do the color profiling, because I believe the profiling add-on is attached to a specific CAD-Link license. Don't 100% quote me on that because I don't do that back end of stuff, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Any other questions I've missed, guys? All right, I think I got everything. Yeah, so if you guys have more stuff, more questions you want to ask, feel free to shoot me an email, drop them in the comments. We do see all the comments after the live stream, so especially on YouTube, if you comment there, we will see it. Can you run two commercials? There's a question, a good question. Uno momento. Can you run two commercial printers on CAD-Link? Yes, sort of. Here's how. If you are running off of an Audley, Audley, Oric, whatever, any of those i3200 printhead printers, most of the time they're printing from PrintEXP or Host and Soft software, basically their own standalone control software. So you could technically use one CAD-Link to rip all of your stuff for the two different printers. You would just have two different queues and profiles set up on CAD-Link. So it would be like separate tabs for separate queues is what you would do. But you could definitely do that and then just export for the stuff that runs Host and Soft and PrintEXP. You basically export a PRN file. So you could definitely do that. Just know that you need to likely, even if they're the same exact machine, if they're i3200 Host and Soft printers, you're going to need to set up the profiles for those differently because they just behave differently. So anyway, I hope that answered some of your guys' burning questions about color. Sometimes it's a little bit of a downer because there are some limitations, but remember, these are limitations across the board for digital printing methods, period. And that's why I think that although DTF sure has kind of started to usurp DTG in the marketplace, that's one of the reasons I think screen printing is going to be around to stay, because they do have that control over specific colors. Is it hard to switch from one RIP software to another? Can ICC profiles be transferred with ease also? It's the learning curve is all you got to really worry about with switching RIP software. So if you did go from MainTop to CAD-Link, you would have to, there would be a little bit of a learning curve as you learn how to use that new RIP software. However, CAD-Link has some great videos online, and we have a lot of videos online. If you happen to purchase your version of CAD-Link through us at DTF Superstore, you would have access to our DTF University, where we have a course on CAD-Link that shows you how to use it, some basic functions, layouts, as well as how to create ICC color profiles. ICC color profiles can be transferred. It's just it gets a little convoluted depending on how it was processed and how it talks to each other. But you should be able to take a true like raw ICC color profile and just put it in. But you'll have to check that out a little bit. We got somebody watching from Africa. Let's go. We be global up in this live stream, except for Asia. Sorry, Asia, it's too late for you guys. Yeah, so I appreciate you guys watching from Europe, from Africa, from Idaho and Wisconsin, wherever you guys are at. But definitely keep an eye out, guys. Oh, great. Another question. Thanks, honey. Yes, I do cover CAD-Link in boot camp. Link in the description below. I'm just kidding. If you go to our website, we do offer boot camps for training in person. But anyway, that's it for now. Keep an eye on YouTube, Facebook, and we will post when we're doing our i3200 stream. And if there's something you'd like us to cover in a live stream, let us know, and we'll put it on the docket. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.